Okay. I am not really feeling it tonight, but show the fuck up. 90% of life is showing up. Just fucking show up. Hindsight is always kind of 2020. Whenever you look back on something that you did, you're going to have a clearer picture of your thought process than you did when you were in the middle of it, because you get the benefit of perspective. Perspective. There we are talking perspective again. So here's the thing. I've literally just opened Clip Studio Paint. I've been playing Starfield all week. So God, I fucking hate this chair. I go through a series of things, okay, and I go through like stages when I'm working on stuff, and let's get a clearer picture of that. So whenever you're learning how to do some stuff, okay, whenever you're like learning a new thing, it kind of goes like this, okay. You start learning the new thing, and you get better, and you get better, and you get better, and then you just kind of drop off, level out. Okay? And what happens over and over again is when I start getting up to this point, okay, it gets frustrating because it gets steeper, you know? You just kind of, you ramp up and then you drop off and you come down. So kind of what I was hitting right here, this part right here at the top, this is the whole measuring point thing. This is me trying to figure out how measuring points work in perspective. And then this bit right here, okay, this is inclines. This is me studying inclines and trying to figure stuff out. And then blip, I remember fuck all about drawing inclines. I can't. Cramming that measuring point shit into my head was so difficult and took so much work, and it was so frustrating that when I got to working on inclines, I got some stuff crammed in there, and I felt like, okay, I could talk about this, and I could not talk about that. It had gone straight out of my head, which means I'm now sitting here. I'm now sitting on this plateau where, at least for perspective, and this is just for one particular thing, like this is perspective. So there's perspective, and I'm trying to learn this shit, and it's not going too well, and I've hit kind of a plateau there. The thing that I tend to do at this point is, number one, I hit the media. You've got the passive media, and you've got the active media. And when I say passive media, what I mean is something like when you're just working, when you're not working on anything, when you got like a thing that you need to do, and you don't know where to go. You don't know how to push forward on it. Okay? If I don't know how the hell I am going to push forward on this, then I'm going to watch a whole bunch of anime, or I'm going to watch a whole bunch of movies, and that's going to be like what I do for a while. If I have a pretty good idea what needs to be done, but I'm just tired and burned out and I don't feel like doing it, then that's when I get into active media, which is like video games and stuff. And if you've been watching me, you've seen that if you're on the Discord, you know that I've been doing a little bit of watching some media. I've watched a couple of movies. I've watched a little bit of anime. I got about halfway through the first season of Sweet Home, which is honestly a pretty good show. But in general, I have mostly been gaming. I've primarily been playing Grand Theft Auto Online because they got all the new stuff going on. They got the snow on the ground right now. I fucking hate GTA Online when there's snow on the ground. So because of that, I'm like avoiding GTA Online. I may log in to like get the login bonuses, but I'm not going to be grinding any cash unless they have like a really substantial sale. There's a pistol you can get on top of the Maze Bank Tower, and I don't care, because that pistol's a piece of shit anyway. Like, who the fuck wants that pistol? I don't understand. Why? Why do you want it? But anyway, I've also been playing a lot of Starfield, and I've been musing about a lot of things around Starfield. I've been noticing some very good design decisions they've made that they're not getting a whole lot of credit for. And one of them is, because it is so much work to level up your skills, because you have these challenges that you have to go through leveling up those skills, starting over means you're signing up to do all that shit again. And I don't want to. I don't want to do all that shit again. That was a huge, huge pain in the arse. And I don't want to start over on that. I typically don't mind starting over in a Bethesda game, because starting over and ramping up all of my skills and whatnot isn't all that difficult. But Starfield has made it difficult. And on top of that, they do not let me reselect my background and my traits at the beginning of each New Game Plus. So I'm stuck as a bounty hunter with a dream home and the kid stuff trait and the adoring fan forever. I'm stuck with that. And was that really the best choice? I mean, I messed around a little bit making different choices, but I went with bounty hunter because, bounty hunter gives me level 1 in 3 useful skills. That's 3 levels. It's not important. I can get those same skills in like 10 minutes. It's not even a big deal. And I don't need any particular skills to finish those early missions. So I just kind of look at that and I go, the skills you get with your background don't matter. And I picked the traits that I did because, number 1, the dream home trait is the only way you get the mansion on Nisoi. And number 2, the kid stuff trait is the only way you get the gun your dad gives you and the ship your dad gives you and the spaceship your mom gives you. Space suit, rather. You get a ship, you get a suit, you get a gun, and you get a meatloaf recipe. And those are the 4 things that you get from the kid stuff trait. I don't fucking care. Like, none of that matters. I don't give a shit about any of that. And then the adoring fan, I mean, I like the adoring fan. I really do. That's how fucking egotistical I am. I love having the adoring fan. I do not get tired of his constant bullshit. But is that really what I want to stick with? Like, I don't really use the adoring fan that much. I just listen to him say stuff and go, that's funny. That was funny right there. That's it. You know, I don't feel like there's any real value or utility in that. And I feel like there are other traits that do have value and utility in them. Not like a lot of it, but some. I never go to my dream home on Nisoi. None of that matters. I don't care about any of the stuff my parents give me. It just seems like I just don't see the point of any of these traits. All of them are things that you can only get by selecting these traits. But I just don't care. And not being able to select new ones means selecting new ones involves starting over. Not 100% happy with that. I don't really want to start over, but that's a really good kind of game design thing. And I digress. In any case, I've gone way off subject for like 10 minutes. And the whole thing here is I hit streaming for passive stuff. And by streaming, I mean like Netflix and Hulu. That's mostly what I do. And Disney Plus. I got Hulu and Disney Plus and Peacock and Paramount Plus and all that shit. But yeah, the last week I've been in the gaming thing because I'm in this situation where I'm at this point with perspective. And the thing is, I've been at that point with some other stuff. Like this would be like character design. And I feel like maybe it's time to go and like hit that hump on character design again. But the question is, you know, I've got a problem and I'm trying to figure out how to address it. The problem is I'm plateaued. And being plateaued, well, that's a problem. I have a tendency when I'm having difficulty with something, and that tendency is to bang my head against it for weeks and weeks and weeks. And if I never make a breakthrough with it, then I'll just burn myself out and be depressed as fuck. And if you've been watching Sketch Weekly for the past couple of years, you've seen that happen to me a couple of times. You've seen me do like depressive streams where I just feel like shit and I can't do much of anything. And this stream had potential to be one of those, but I've been trying to kind of look back at that and get an awareness of it and kind of stick with the meta on the whole streaming thing, like the actual active streaming thing. So I think what I need to do, I need to kind of look at, you know, I've been looking at perspective, I've been looking at character design. I need to work on my fundamentals and that sort of stuff. And that leads us to one of the things that I want to kind of talk about today, which is it's those basic fundamentals. And those fundamentals come down to, there are two ways to go about making stuff. Okay? And those two ways are drawing and painting. Like up here, I've drawn this box, okay? But I can also paint the box. And the difference is that when I draw the box, I'm doing the edges. When I paint the box, I'm doing the shape. Okay, so we're going to come back over here to sketch. And all of this comes down to a three-part process. Whenever you are drawing anything, you have a three-part process. This three-part process is, what do you need to draw or paint? Where do you need to draw or paint it? And why do you need that? Like what edge on your shape needs to be drawn? For example, when you're doing a box, you absolutely need the edge between the box and its background. But to show that it's a box, you also need the internal edges. You need the edges where the planes of the box change. Okay? And because these are operating in different directions, you need those edges. You need those edges to show where that sudden plane change is. Now, you're not going to show it the same way with, you're not going to show it the same way when you're painting, because what you're going to do when you're painting is you're going to have a highlight color for the areas that are well lit. And then you're going to have a shadow color for the areas that are dark. You're painting the shapes, you're going to show that plane change by showing the amount of light hitting this side is different. So your shape isn't actually the original shape that you made. It's a different shape that displays how the light is hitting it. And this is the important thing. Every time you are working on a piece, every time you are trying to draw or paint something, you're looking at it and you're going, okay, starting with what I have here, which can be, it can be absolutely nothing. You can have an absolutely blank sheet of paper, okay? And even if you have an absolutely blank sheet of paper, from this, whatever you want to make, okay, from this point, there is a line you can draw or a shape you can paint that will get you closer to the picture that you want to make, okay? There's always a line you can draw or a shape you can make that will get you closer to the image you're trying to make until you're done, okay? And that's all there is to it. That's the entirety of drawing, is just finding what lines or shapes to put on the paper, where you need to put them, and why they need to be put there. That's the whole thing. And from there, it's just more and more rules. And it's the same thing with, I was a software developer for 30 years, So it's the same thing with code, okay? When you're trying to write code, there are exactly 3 things that you're concerned about, okay? Funny how that works. Sequence, selection, and iteration. Sequence is what order you have to do things in. It's all the things you need to do and what order they need to be done in. Selection is under what conditions you need to do them. Like, do you need to do this every time or just sometimes? And then you have iteration, which is exactly how many times you need to do this. And it's still like the same 3 things. These 3 things are enough to make any program, and they still come after that same what, where, and why. Although it tends to be when rather than where. What needs to be done? When do you need to do it? That's your sequence. And why does it need to be done? And once you know that, you put everything in sequence, you just give it the right conditions, and you do it the right number of times. That's it. It is the same basic thing. If you're breaking it down into the most basic elements of what it is that you're doing. So if you can't tell what needs to go next, or where it needs to go, or when it needs to be done, and you don't know why, what that fundamentally means is you don't have enough information. And if you don't have enough information, then what that leaves you in the situation of doing is, when you're writing code, you need to go research the problem. You need to go find out, what are the industry standard, the best current practices for doing this thing that I'm doing, for solving the problem that I'm solving. And when you're talking about art, if you don't know what line to draw, where to draw it, or why, if you don't know what shape to paint, where to paint it, or why to paint it, if you don't know any of those things, what you need is reference. I did a fucked up F, and ever since I did that fucked up F, I was constantly trying to do a better F. I was like, that should have been a better F, and every other letter tried to turn into an F. That was annoying. But this is how everything breaks down. You have to know what line or shape to draw. You got your line over here, you got your edges, you got your shapes. Which edge do I need? Which shape do I need? Where does it need to go? Why does it need to go there? And you just answer that question over and over and over again until the piece is done as well as you can do it. Now, this has some obvious implications, and one of those implications is The stupidest way to do it is to go, well, I'm going to start with this little detail over here. No, you want to start with your broad strokes. Your broad strokes are like always there. They're always in the back. You want to look at your large shapes, at the large elements of the composition, and you want to move forward into the details. So you want to start general and get more specific. It's the same thing you do with software. You start out with a general impression of the problem, and then you get more and more specific about the parts of the problem. What you do is decompose the entire image into shapes that work together. For example, we're sitting on the construction layer. Let me turn off the line art, the sketch, and the flat color so we have something to work with. You would start out, you would go, okay, well, we have a division between the horizon and the sky. And you know, if you're drawing, you would start out by drawing the line of the horizon. If you're painting, you would start out by drawing or by painting the shape of the sky. Once you've got the shape of the sky, you would then go, well, okay, from here, I want to, actually, let's do this on a different layer that isn't restricted. So we'd start out like here with a nice sky blue, and we'd go, okay, here's our sky right here. That's awfully bright. Let's desaturate that a bit. There we go. So here's our sky, okay? And now that we've got our sky, we go, okay, now we need a kind of a grassy green down here. And what do we need to do to improve this? We need to smooth out the horizon line. And we can do that by turns until we have something. You go, okay, we've got something. Now, what do you need to make this better? Okay, let's make some kind of clouds up here in the sky. We'll add some clouds. Clouds are useful. That's nice. We'll do at least one that goes off of the page. And there we go. And then we say, okay, there needs to be a rock in the middle of the field. And there needs to be a tree. There should be a tree right up here along the edge. There should be a tree right here. And that tree is going to have some bluish green leaves. We're going to do that right there. Okay. So that's going to get, and gradually you begin to kind of converge on a picture, which right now looks like something a child would do in first grade. But as you improve it, the way you improve it is you go, okay, how does this improve? Well, if we start from this green right here and we go, okay, we're going to go we're going to do a little bit more green. We're going to bring this a little bit forward. And then we're going to bring that saturation up and down. And we're going to kind of improve the look of this tree. And we're just going to improve that by getting into these areas and just kind of desaturating and brightening up. And then we're gonna take that bit by bit. We're gonna say, okay, let's take this rock and go, okay, we want the rock to be a little bit brighter on this side here. That's where the sun's hitting it, and we want it to be a little bit darker down here. So let's do kind of, there's the bottom and there's the back side over here, and maybe we got a little bit right in. Got some crap on this. Got some schmutz on the screen there. So we just add little bits, and these little bits that we add as we go through, we just go, hey, what if we kind of gave the ground a little bit more? Actually, that's a bad way to do it. What if we went to our airbrush and we get kind of big? Okay, let's kind of shade this side of this hill. And then, hey, why don't we shade this side of this tree? Get that kind of back and over there, and then we'll kind of give that some depth. And then we'll come over here and we'll just go, okay, let's desaturate that a bit. And we'll go, here's some highlighting on this side, and we'll do very small kind, just to show the roughness of the bark. And then we'll do the same thing with shadows. Kind of give it a feel. And we can add just a little bit here and just a little bit there. And then we'll come over here and we'll go, let's get a little bit brighter along the top of that. Get a little brighter along the top of that mountain. There. A little bit brighter over here, that side. And you start to get something that looks more like that looks more like an actual artist might have done it. You start to converge on something that's more like a real scene, more like a real picture. And it's just at each individual stage, you just go, well, let's get a little bit closer, a little bit closer, a little bit closer. And you get to the point where you look at that tree and you go, well, that tree looks like shit. If you look at the tree and you go, that tree looks like shit, go get a picture of a tree. Use the picture of the tree to look at it and go, okay, which lines are wrong? Which lines do I need to take off of here? Which shapes do I need to paint over? How do I fix this by changing the shapes that I've painted into the shapes that need to be painted and putting them where they need to go? And why did I put them where I did instead of where they actually go? More accurately, why do they need to go here instead of where I put them? Like, what stupid thing was I thinking when I put the leaves there instead of where they actually need to go? What did I do wrong? And that's the question that you're asking. That leads us into the 10,000 hour rule. I've been seeing a lot of people say the 10,000 hour rule is bullshit. If you actually paid fucking attention in Malcolm Gladwell's book, Outliers, he says you need 10,000 hours to be truly world class at anything. It's not just to be good. It's not to be a professional. It's to be world class. It's not 10,000 hours to play professional hockey. It's not 10,000 hours to play hockey with your local community team. It's 10,000 hours to be the kind of hockey player that gets invited to the fucking Olympics. That's what the 10,000 hours is for. You don't need 10,000 hours for anything less than that. And people keep going, oh, the 10,000 hours is bullshit. He's just completely full of crap. No, he's just talking about the top of the field, the absolute top of the field. And when you go and you talk to people that are at the absolute top of their field, they got 10, 15, 20 years in that field, and they've definitely got their 10,000 hours. Your world-class performers do have their 10,000 hours, but lots of professionals don't. You can get hired with absolutely no experience. I've done it. Lots of people have done it. And that has nothing to do with what makes you a professional or what makes you good at what you do. Plenty of people are out there right now in Korea working in a sweatshop, and they're cranking out anime left and right. They may have 10,000 hours, but it's not the 10,000 hours of deliberate practice that they need to be a world-class artist. It's 10,000 hours of cranking stuff out consistently and reliably on schedule so they can get paid. That doesn't make you world-class. That's not going to make any of them world-class because they're stuck doing the same thing over and over and over. You have to change, you have to move forward, you have to do your stuff, you know? At the rate I'm going, I'm doing like 300 hours a year, so I'll be world class in about 35 years. When I'm 90, I'll be world class. Okay, maybe I need to step up this practice thing a little But that's the whole thing. The whole thing that you're doing is you're just trying to draw the right edge or paint the right shape where it needs to go and know why that's where it needs to go. Now, every single thing I've put in this picture, okay, I have known the thing needs to be there and I understand why. But as you get more and more into the details, I'm just more and more lost. Like the rock is a piece of shit. I need reference for that rock, and there are two kinds of reference. You just get a rock and look at the rock and go, okay, what's wrong with my rock? Or you can grab yourself a book. Like this book has a chapter on rocks. And you can go to the part where they talk about rocks, and you can go, okay, in order to do myself a good rock, I'm gonna have to do this stuff. This is how I do a better rock. And there's a lot of stuff like that. You can go to a reference that will say, here's more information about the why, or you can just get a picture that shows you the what and the where. So those are pretty much basic things. And of course, I've talked about there are three fundamental shapes that you're worried about. And those three fundamental shapes are the box, by which I mean anything that is all 90-degree angles, or just all angles at all. It's angular, not round. The box, the ball, and the barrel. Those are the three things you're worried about. If you can do these, you can do anything. You just need to modify them a little bit. Because number one, you start off with like your cube. You go, all right, I can do a cube. Well, it can be longer in any of the dimensions. It can be taller. It can be wider. It can go deeper. That's what she said. So your box can be wider in any of the dimensions. It's the same with your ball. Your ball can be a big wide ball. It can be a big long ball. It can be really tall. There are all kinds of things you can do with the ball, and the same thing with your barrel. Your barrel gets interesting because your barrel can be really wide, and it can be really long, like a sardine can, or again, it can be really tall, or it can be a combination. And once you get accustomed to that sort of thing, once you get accustomed to your box, your ball, and your barrel and being expanded in one direction or both directions, what you end up with is now you want to work with your box not being the same size all the way down. You want to work with it being not all 90-degree angle. Same thing with your ball. You want your ball to start becoming more of an egg. You want your barrel to start becoming more of a traffic cone. So you deal with kind of your pyramid and your egg and your cone. And as you deal with those, you get better at that. Then you want more transitional forms. You want a form that starts out square at the bottom, and then as it comes up, it becomes round. Well, how do you do that? How do you make that happen? How do you do that? How do you make that happen? Well, you kind of widen out the edges is how you do that. It's the same thing with your egg. You can do it's square and flat down at the bottom, but you get up to the top and it's round. Well, now what? You just kind of round that off like that. And now you're getting close to some actual real world shapes. And you want to work with not just the process of doing the angles of these shapes, but you want to think about the shapes of these shapes. And how you would represent them as shapes and not edges. Then you want to think about how you would shade them. You think about how you would do the side that's in shadow and how you would do the side that's in light over here. And you'd want to think about how does that come over here to the side. You want to do the same thing with your shading. Well, you want to think about how that shades over to the side. And you want to think about your hard edges and where you want those to be, getting those cleaned up. And as you start putting these concepts together and you start getting more and more of that stuff to look decent and to look accurate, you know, when you're painting, at every time you're representing a volume, okay? And because you're representing a volume, you're always trying to trick the viewer into thinking they are looking at something that is three-dimensional and not just two-dimensional on a page, okay? That's what you're trying to do. With your lines, okay? When you're drawing your lines, you are tricking the viewer into thinking, okay, that is not just a line sitting in the middle of nowhere. That is the edge of a shape. And with painting, you're actually doing the shape. You're actually saying, no, here's the shape right here. Like up here's the shape. Here's the lit side of the shape. And over here is the shadow side of the shape. And as you put that together, it's kind of that understanding of light and shade. I don't have as much understanding of light and shade as I need to. I need to work on that. Some of that is based in perspective. And that's one of the things that I'm kind of looking at as I go with this is the concept that that with perspective, lets you planning, lets you planning. Ooh, that's a great discussion right there. Perspective lets you do the planning for your picture. If you've got a very clear picture in your head of what your thing needs to look like, but you don't know how to put that on the paper, perspective lets you plan that out from nothing, okay? And if you're just going purely from your imagination, okay, then that's just kind of extemporaneous. You just go, okay, I want this thing over here, and I want that thing over there. Like here's the building that I want, and over here there's going to be some windows. And you can just kind of rough that in, and then you can go, okay, well, perspective, that's coming back to your horizon line. Your horizon's going to go over here. And because your horizon line is over here, okay, then we got to stop and think about, oh, all right, here's your center of vision, down here's your station point. That's at a particular angle. So this is the other, this would be the other vanishing point. And because that's the other vanishing point, okay, now we know what the actual building has to look like. And this is a bullshit setup because this gives us a very kind of distorted image of that building. But you can use perspective to do your planning and figure out where the lines need to go and why they need to go there. Perspective gives you that why, okay? And being able to do all of that and put the what and the where and the why together is tremendously important. And putting all of those things together is it is really all you're doing, and that's the frustrating part, being where I am in all of this stuff, is that I have to put all of this stuff together, but I also have to know all of this stuff. And of course I do exactly what everybody who's learning anything does. They jump straight into trying to do the thing, and they do not, for one reason or another, they do not stop and learn how to do the thing. Just kind of important. You need to spend the time figuring out what it is that you're doing and how to do the thing that you're trying to do. So so there are all of these fundamentals that I've never wasted very much time on, but I need to put some time into them. I need to work with lines and with shapes and with representing volumes and with how the lighting and shading work on these. All of that is stuff that I need to work with. And one of the things that I was realizing was when you're drawing natural scenery, and I think I've mentioned this in a previous stream, when you're drawing natural scenery, perspective doesn't matter. It doesn't actually matter precisely how large something is, precisely how wide it is, precisely how tall it is. None of that actually makes a difference. And the reason so many people start with landscapes and stay with landscapes is because none of that shit matters, so you don't have to learn it. You just have to learn what a field looks like, what a river looks like, what a road looks like. You just figure those things out, and then you can just throw them all together, and the scale really doesn't matter until you put something of known size in there. Everything's of unknown size in a landscape. It's arbitrary. It could be anything. So, so that makes starting with landscapes a nice, easy thing. And I think that's why a lot of people just get stuck with that. Then as you get more experience, as you start thinking about perspective and working with perspective, then you can put like buildings in there, and you can put people in there, and you can add a sense of scale, and you can add a sense of perspective. And as you get better with the perspective, you can move out from that and go, okay, here's an interior with all of your furniture and all of your various crap all over the room. And here's a cityscape, and here's some other stuff. And you gradually make your way into doing more and more complicated things. So, so I want to spend some time on landscapes because I gotta learn how to do them. There's some stuff I need to do. There's always a landscape everywhere. It's like even when you're doing a city, you're still doing a landscape, even if the land is asphalt. You know, it's the same basic thing. There's still nature off in the background in the distance. You're still going to have a sky. You're still going to have clouds. You're still going to have all of that shit. You got to learn how to do that. And I got to put in the time on that. So, and what I'm kind of trying to say here is, God, I'm fucking tired of perspective. And if I keep banging my head on perspective, I'm going to burn myself out. So I don't want to burn myself out on perspective. And honestly, if I go take a look here, if I take a look at where I left off in the perspective book, this is a university textbook on perspective. It's a book that you would study in art school, and probably not even in art school, probably in like a regular university that is like, oh, we're just as good as an art school. You can study here. We care much less about art than we do about, you know, just like actual fucking education. Art schools always kind of feel like half-arsed schools to me. My wife went to art school, and there are so many things that she just like didn't learn in school because they were studying fucking art. And I'm like, you know, there's like regular fundamental education that you need to learn, and they're not teaching it to you. But yeah, let me click through over here. Yeah, I'm on like page 110 of a 500-page book after like a month and a half, and that's faster than an actual college course would move. So I'm not gonna beat myself up about needing a break after 100 pages of this fucking book. I just the whole inclines in perspective thing, I keep thinking I've got it and then it falls out of my head, and that's that curve. That's that learning curve. I've gotten to the top of the incline and it's dropped off, and now we're going to plateau for a while, And perspective is just not in the cards for me right now. So I got to jump back to something else that I'm plateaued on. And I'm plateaued on landscapes. I'm plateaued on character. So probably those two are the things that I'm going to look at for a while. I don't know. It's been a long time since I got back on landscapes. I think maybe that'll be the thing that I focus on for like next week. Or maybe, I mean, since next week is the last stream of the year, maybe that's a good time to just kind of go over what the plan is. No, I'm just gonna do landscapes. I'm gonna start working on landscapes and get some experience working on those, because that's an important thing. That's something I need to work with. Another thing that I could spend some time on is I could spend some time on just basic fundamentals. That would also be good. But I want to do landscapes. Let me do a quick check real quick. Maybe there is a specific landscape that I could work on. Let's see. Who needs a landscape? Hmm. Sorry, I had to sneeze there. Yeah, it looks like Ichigo needs a kind of quote unquote fantasy setting, which I guess would be like an open field with a castle in the background or some such shit. I don't know. There should be somebody else who needs a I don't know. I need to do more work on the characterization here. I need a hmm. What would be good? I don't know. What if huh? I don't know. I don't know. There are definitely some. There are definitely a few people that could do with a. All of my locations are pretty much like civilized locations. I've got a store, an apartment, a school, a subway, an office, a parking lot, a playground. I guess is outdoors, gymnasium, tunnels, and some kind of isekai location. So I guess that would be like yeah, a that would be like a forest. I don't know. Subway tunnels would be interesting. No, let's work on some kind of like. Okay, we're gonna work on like a forested landscape of some sort. And you know what? That I should really look at Monet's olive garden, olive groves, olive trees, and whatnot. I like those. They look good. I feel like that sort of that Florentine feel would be a good thing to have. So okay, let's I don't know, let's talk about trees and rocks next time. Trees, rocks, and paths. I guess that'll work. Eh, crap, we're only at 50 minutes. This is good enough, I guess. Fuck it. Okay, bye. Wait. Do a little YouTube dance. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell icon, all of that shit. And then, okay, bye.